What is up everyone, Jeremy here. Welcome to another video in the tone sample series. In this video, we are going to compare the brand new NeuralDSP SOLDANO SLO-100 plugin with the STLTones AmpHub and ToneHub SLO-100s. We're going to listen to some low gain and high gain tones in a full mix. After the audio samples, we'll run through all of the individual settings from each of the amplifiers, and I'll break things down as to how I put together these tones. All right, so let's just go ahead and jump straight into the DAW. The very first amp sim up is going to be STL AmpHub. And again, you can see this is the SLO-100. And I'm gonna hit play on this. You'll hear the entire audio sample. After this plays, we're gonna jump into STL ToneHub, then the NeuralDSP SOLDANO SLO-100. After each of them play, we'll then break down the entire signal chain, all the settings used. So I'm gonna play the audio samples, then we'll break things down. So the first up is STL AmpHub. All right, there it is, STL AmpHub. So we're just going to continue moving on with the full audio samples, and we're going to jump into STL ToneHub next. Let me just switch out these plugins, and here we go. This is STL ToneHub, and I'll just pull one up here on the screen so you can see it. Here it is, and roll it. All right, that is STL ToneHub. Now, the brand new NeuralDSP SOLDANO SLO-100. Let me switch out the plugins, pull one up on the screen, and here we go. All right, there are the audio samples, all three. STL AmpHub, STL ToneHub, and the NeuralDSP SOLDANO SLO-100. So before I even continue, I'm very curious of what you think. So before I break down any of the settings, jump down into the comments and let me know right there, just from those audio samples, which one sounded the best to you. Which one do you feel like kind of sat in the mix the best, had the best tonal characteristics, cut through the mix? Like which one? Just hearing the audio samples, hit me in the comments, let me know which one you thought sounded the best. AmpHub, ToneHub, or the NeuralDSP. Now, moving on to these settings. So how did I put together these tones? Well, the very first thing that I should always discuss is the signal chain, starting from the guitar all the way into the computer. So this was my Solar A1.7D with the stock Solar Duncan pickups in it. Going into the Behringer Ultra DI Pro, into my Focusrite Scarlett audio interface, into the Mac. We end up in the DAW, and then going through the plugins. Anybody who follows my videos and my channel, some of this is going to be pretty consistent. But if you're new to my channel, you're new to this content, then this is brand new to you. So I'm going to run through it. But the very first thing up that I always put at the top of my guitar tracks is the Slate Digital virtual mix rack. And that's so that I can add a trimmer in here in case my signal is coming in rather hot, which in this case it is. So I've pulled it back about 3 dB. Then we go into the New York, we're on the preamp setting. I'm not adding any saturation. It's just kind of going through this to add a very, 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 very subtle kind of coloration to it going through this preamp. But it's you could probably remove this and you would never know the difference. So if you don't have the Slate Digital Virtual Mix Rack, that's fine. That's fine. You don't necessarily need it. It's just something I like to add. Then we're going into the SSL channel strip. If you don't have this plugin or another channel strip, that's fine. The main reason I'm using this is the primary reason is just to clean up my plugin, so I don't have to have a separate EQ, compressor, and noise gate. Right? It's all right here. I just have my EQ, my compressor, and my noise gate. So you can see kind of the settings that I've got going on here. We're pulling back some of the lows, boosting up some of the upper mids and highs, and then we have a little tiny bit of compression, so during those chugs it doesn't get woofy, just to kind of tighten things up a little bit. And then we have the noise gate set here with a fairly low threshold. So those are the settings in my channel strip. Now going into the plugins. So the first up is STL AmpHub, and you can see it here. So we're going to start with the pedal board, and I can get rid of the TS9. I'm not using it. So we're using the M808 here, and we've got the balance turned all the way up. We've got the tone at 8.8, drive all the way down. Then we are going into obviously the SLO-100. You can see we're on the overdrive channel. I've got the overdrive almost at 8, it's at 7.7. Bass pulled back a good ways to 4.4. I've got the middle pulled back a little bit to 4.5, treble up to 6.5, and then the overdrive, the master channel to 7.7, and presence at basically 6. So those are the settings on the amp, and then the last is the IRs. Now, I was tempted to use my current favorite IRs, the Behringer Digital IRs. However, because STL ToneHub does not allow you to use external IRs, I figured let's keep an even playing field and use the same mics across all of these. So since the ToneHub samples or the presets that they use in the SLO-100 preset pack, they were with a SM57 and a 121 microphone. So that's what I have here in AmpHub, as well as the NeuralDSP plugin. So that's just to keep compare apples to apples, if you will, as closely as possible. Because obviously all of these IRs, they're not exactly the same, but at least I've got the same mics across all of them. So those are the settings you can see here for the cabinet or the IR settings. And this is consistent across the left and the right channel. There's no difference. Now this is the high gain tone. Now looking at the low crunch tone you heard at the beginning of the audio sample, this is what that is. So there are no pedals. We are going into the SLO-100 on the normal channel, and we're not using bright. The bright is off. We are on crunch, and we've got normal preamp at 5.7, the bass at 7, the middle at pulled back to 5.7, treble pulled back to 4.7, normal up to 8.8, and let's see, the presence is actually pulled back to 5.2, and then we are using some DIR settings, exactly the same as the high gain tones, and then we are using some post effects here. So we're using a delay, a reverb, and a chorus, and I'm not going to run through every single setting because it'll take me forever, but you can see it on the screen there, and those are the settings that made up the cleanish / low gain crunch tone in the beginning and the high gain tones. So that's how I put together the tone for AmpHub. And let me just solo a part of this so you can hear what it sounds like on its own. And here's a little sample of that. Okay, and then we'll get some chugs over here. All right, so that is the AmpHub plugin and all of the settings. Now let's move on to the ToneHub, and we'll walk through all of the settings I used there for the audio sample. And just like with the AmpHub, we'll start with the high gain tone, work our way backwards. So with ToneHub, I went with the number 4 preset, which comes with the SOLDANO SLO-100 preset pack. This is a high gain overdrive tone. It is using, like I said, an SM57 and a 121 microphone with a Mesa Boogie cabinet, 4x12 cabinet. So looking at the stomp section, we have the overdrive 1 turned on, balance is all the way up, drive is all the way down. Tone is at 7. You can see the amp settings I've got there. And then looking at the cabinet, I actually had to pull this back a little bit further than what it was. And in fact, if you look at the amp settings here, I had to pull the presence way back. I pulled the treble back a little bit too. I don't know what it was about these particular presets, but it was very, very, there was a lot of high end, a ton, and it was just way too much. So I actually pulled this back away from the center cone a little bit on the cab and almost turned off the presence completely and rolled back the highs. And it still has quite a bit of high end. So these preset packs, it was a ton of high end here. So just note that if you're ever interested in getting this, a lot of high end. All right, so that is the high gain tone. Looking at what I did for the low gain / crunch tone, starting with the stomp boxes. Looks like we have overdrive 1 here. So I actually went with the preset number 15, low gain crunch 1. Same exact microphone setup, same cabinet, everything. You can see the overdrive 2 is on here and the settings there, the amp settings here, and then looking at the cabinet, and then the biggest difference here is the post effects. So we have the delay, the reverb, and it looks like it's mainly just, see, is that okay? So the delay wasn't even on. It's just reverb and chorus, and so that is what makes up the tone for the low gain tone for ToneHub. All right, and so just real quick, here is a sample of what ToneHub sounds like solo, just as I showed with the AmpHub. All right, and we'll get to some chugs over here. As I mentioned, right, like I've got the presence pulled almost all the way back and the highs rolled back a bit and even pulled away from the cone on the IR setting, and you can hear how much high-end bite is still coming through this plugin. So just keep that in mind. There's a lot of top end on this ToneHub plugin for these SLO-100 presets. Now let's look at the brand new NeuralDSP STLTones SLO-100. Just like many of, or I should say all of NeuralDSP's plugins, their user interface, like the design of the amp and everything, first of all, is just gorgeous. They obviously have really good designers working for them because all the interfaces just look so fantastic. So just a quick note there. I love the way that their UI looks. Anyways, the settings for the high gain tone, we are using, God, look how good these pedals look. It's amazing. All right, so anyways, the settings for the pedal board, we have the overdrive 1 turned on, the level is all the way up, the drive is all the way down, and I've got the tone actually almost all the way up. And one thing that it doesn't tell me is, like, if I click, it doesn't tell me what like actual setting this is on, but you can see it's almost all the way up. And then if we look at the amp, you can see we are obviously in the overdrive mode. We've got overdrive set, the preamp overdrive set to 5. We've got the bass at 3. One thing I want to point out here very quickly, when you hear me saying things like this one's at 3, this one's at 5, do note that that is specific to the plugin. And if as I show here, you can see if you compare the NeuralDSP settings to the AmpHub settings, you'll note that there's actually 12 steps on the NeuralDSP and 11 on AmpHub, because it's on the NeuralDSP plugin, it starts at 0 and goes to 11. And then on AmpHub, it starts at 1 and goes to 11. So just kind of keep that in mind. There is a bit of a difference there. And so just kind of quickly running across these, bass is at 3, middle is at 4, treble's at about 6, overdrive, the master volume here is like right at 5, presence is boosted up just a little bit. And on the NeuralDSP, we have depth, which we did not have on the AmpHub. So that is missing from AmpHub, but I didn't touch it. I just left it right at 50%. And then the cab section, you can see we're using the 57 and the 121. You can see the placements there. All right, that is the high gain tone. Now the low gain / crunch tone is, let's see, I don't believe there are, so we have the chorus on. This is a in the stomp box section, pre-amp. The ToneHub and AmpHub, it's post effects. It's after even the IR section. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's a little bit different there. But you can see the amp settings here. I'm not going to run through every one of these again. You can see them on the screen, but we are obviously on the normal mode. And then if we go into the IR section, 57 and a 121, as I mentioned before, same IR settings. And then the post effects we are using here is the delay and reverb. And just really quick, I want to note that it's actually really, really cool that in this NeuralDSP plugin, which is focused on just one amplifier, we have all of these effects, because if you think about the previous plugins that they've released, like the Omega Ampworks Granifier, the Fortin Cali, the Fortin, what is it, the Meshuggah amp, Nameless, Fortin NTS, like all of those individual amplifiers that they've released before have not had all of these effects in it. So this is pretty awesome that they added these. So that was pretty cool. Thank you, NeuralDSP. That's awesome of you. All right, that is what makes up that low gain / crunch tone. All right, and so now let's go ahead and listen to these guitars soloed with the NeuralDSP Soldano SLO-100, just as we did with the other two. All right, and the chugs. All right, so those are the settings I used in the audio sample, and you heard them soloed there as well. So with all of that, let me know what your thoughts are. Which one do you feel like is the winner for you? Which one do you think sounded the best in the mix, soloed, all of that? Hit me in the comments and let me know. As for my pick, I think I would personally, it's a toss-up between ToneHub and the NeuralDSP Soldano SLO-100 for me. I think I would probably need a little bit more time to play with these, maybe write more of this track, maybe put it in some additional mixes and really kind of put it through the paces to know really which one I'm digging the most. There's something about the ToneHub, like the tones that come out of ToneHub that resonate with me really well. So right now, if I absolutely had to choose one, I would probably say ToneHub. But NeuralDSP's Soldano SLO-100 is really close as well for me. So it's a tough call. It's a tough call, but again, I'm curious what your thoughts are. Anyways, if you are not subscribed to my channel and you dig this content and you would like to see more, I would ask you to please consider subscribing. That button is right down below. Hit like and share. And as always, thank you for watching and thank you for your support.